Hello and welcome to episode number 7 of Heart Containers, a daily podcast where we discuss the latest Nintendo news that you need to know about. I'm your host, Rami Fawaz, and today is Tuesday, February 5th. I hope you guys had a great Monday. I know that the start of the week can be a little bit rough, but I hope that some of the things that we talk about today will make it a little bit better because there are some rumblings going on within the world of Nintendo that are pointing to maybe something special happening this week. I don't want to get your hopes up too much, but we're going to talk about it more when we get into today's daily Nintendo report.
Well, the wait is over. This is Nintendo DS. My body is ready.
We would like to play.
A way to make 3D games a reality, and it's called the Wii U Game Pen.
The first story on the report is something that's been a while coming already. It's that yesterday, 3 new games have officially joined the 3DS Nintendo Selects catalog in North America. Those 3 being Super Mario Maker 3DS, Star Fox 64 3D, and The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask 3D. Just like the other Nintendo Selects titles, the games can now be found with a new case that highlights their new Selects status, as well as a price drop to just $19.99. If there's any of you guys out there who are still playing with your 3DS, surprisingly so, I am still playing with my 3DS, although I have all 3 of those games. Actually, I don't have Super Mario Maker 3DS. I have Super Mario Maker for the Wii U. I have never felt the need to get it on 3DS, although I do admit it would be kind of fun to have that game portable, but I would rather wait. Even if it's not coming, I would still rather wait to see if they bring that game or a sequel of some sort to the Switch, because that's where I would rather be playing my games. But if you are still playing your 3DS, these are no-brainer pickups. All 3 of these games are great. I think out of the 3, my favorite is Majora's Mask, just because I'm a Zelda junkie, and Majora's Mask is such a fun twist on the usual Zelda storyline and premise that you typically get. Although I know it's not for everyone. The time mechanic can be anxiety inducing for some people. I know it was for me when I played it when I was a little bit younger, but the 3DS version is the superior version if that's something that bothers you, if that time mechanic bothers you too much, because they do a great job of kind of smoothing the edges and explaining it a little bit better and showing you kind of a schedule on the lower half of the screen, so it's a little bit friendlier. The second story that I want to talk about: new Animal Crossing news may be arriving sooner than you think. One very observant Redditor noted yesterday that Nintendo's official German YouTube channel added a handful of new private videos to their Animal Crossing playlist. These videos, in which there are 6, are plainly visible, but of course they can't be watched or interacted with in any meaningful way, but they're still there and you can check them out. If you go to the Nintendo German YouTube channel, you can see them laying out there. Now, why this might be significant is because this is not a particularly active playlist. It does not get a lot of attention from Nintendo's German channel. All of the previous videos on this playlist are all related to marketing Animal Crossing New Leaf, and that makes sense why it has not been active in a while, because New Leaf hasn't really been actively marketed in a long time. So adding new videos to this playlist could imply that there's a new game to talk about very soon. There's also precedence for this exact situation, because a similar thing happened just last year with private videos added to Nintendo's Pokemon YouTube playlist, and those turned out to be a marketing or video platform for the Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee games. So take this with a grain of salt, because again, this could mean almost anything. All we know is that there are new private videos that got added to Nintendo's official German YouTube channel. Now, if they are added in the same vein as what I just suggested with the Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee videos, that means that Nintendo is prepping these videos up. They already have them completed. They put them onto YouTube, mark them as private because they're not ready to share them, so that in some time in the very near future, they can simply flick a switch and then the private status goes to public. That's why you do something like this. And that seems to imply 2 things. One, there is some sort of Animal Crossing news coming. It could be very disappointing. That's why I'm saying, like, tame your expectations, although the possibilities are, I guess, endless. But it could be anything from here is an update to Animal Crossing Pocket Camp to here is yet another Animal Crossing spin-off game if we haven't had enough of those already, maybe Amiibo Festival 2, because God knows we need that game. Or all the way to, I think, what most of us are hoping for and anticipating is here is Animal Crossing 2019. It could be any of those things, but regardless, it does seem to hint that it will be sooner rather than later, because there is no reason to post these videos onto YouTube and mark them as private unless you want the convenience of switching them from private to public in a relatively short time period. You know, if they weren't going to reveal these videos for another month, let's say, then why post them this early? Why get the conversation started? Because, I mean, this isn't the first time that news like this has cycled around about Nintendo's YouTube playlists. They know that by doing something like this, or at least they should know that by doing something like this, people will take note of it. This will make news. So I don't see why you would be preemptive about it and try to post videos too early. I think this is a sign that we are going to find out something very soon about Animal Crossing. Again, I can't promise you it's going to be the Animal Crossing news that you want to hear, but if I'm going to be an optimist, and because they came out on a Monday, and usually Nintendo's pretty good at announcing a direct, usually on Tuesdays for Thursday, is how I feel like it typically works, then maybe what this means is that on tomorrow, or today actually, on Tuesday, we're going to find out that, hey, here's a direct announcement. We're going to explain more on Thursday. And then come Thursday, it's a completely chock full Animal Crossing direct, or maybe it's a more broad Nintendo Direct that very heavily highlights Animal Crossing 2019, and then that's when they fill out the rest of the playlist with all of these smaller Animal Crossing videos that maybe talk about Animal Crossing, because the current rumors that are circling around Animal Crossing 2019 is that it is an April game, is that it's going to come out before the end of April, which is relatively soon. I mean, we're already in February, so February, March, April, it would make sense that we are beyond the point of just here is a teaser trailer and then wait for a few more months. We're probably getting to that, if that's true, if the April rumor is true, we're getting to that point in time where they have to rev up the marketing machine for this game. It's more than just here's the trailer. It's here are a couple of smaller examples highlighting new mechanics in that game, which would add to this story about having 6 videos that are all private, because you would make a handful of videos to say, okay, this is how X works in the game. This is how villagers interact with you. This is in the game, and start the process of really marketing Animal Crossing. So keep your eyes open this week. Keep your eyes open for what that could possibly be. I'm trying not to get too hyped myself because I know that this could be anything, but it at least means we're going to find out something soon. The third story is an ongoing story that I really didn't think I would be reporting on so heavily for multiple days in a row now, but here we are. It has to do with Piranha Plant. Nintendo is struggling to reproduce these Piranha Plant woes that some Super Smash Bros. Ultimate players have been reporting ever since they updated to the version 2.0 update of the game. The official statement from Nintendo reads as follows, quote, "We are aware that some users are posting about possible issues with the latest Super Smash Bros. Ultimate update. After extensive testing, Nintendo has not been able to confirm that there is an issue, although we will continue to investigate and monitor the situation," end quote. I don't know what this means. It's possible that the amount of people that have been reporting this issue are a very, very, very small amount of people, because maybe the actual workflow that you have to go through to reproduce this crash, this bug, this corrupted save file is so specific that it's only happening to a small, very tiny percentage of the Smash Brothers Ultimate population that makes it incredibly difficult for Nintendo to reproduce. That is one reason why this could be happening. I've heard other people mention that maybe the people who are complaining are maybe playing with a version of the game that is hacked or something, like their switches are not in a standard state, and that's why Nintendo's having trouble with it. I wouldn't go that far to say that it has to be the case. I'm not really sure what could be causing this. I guess it just means that the reasons for why you can get a corrupted save by, again, it was with playing as Piranha Plant in in the All-Star mode and also a couple other modes. That's the thing. There hasn't really been a direct explanation of what it is. I've heard playing as Piranha Plant. I've also heard playing as other characters, including Duck Hunt, and then as well as like the modes in which you play through. I've heard All-Star, Classic, and then a combination of some other modes too. So whatever it is, Nintendo doesn't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on because they don't know what's going on. I would just say to you guys, be safe. Practice safety with your video gaming habits. And if you're going to play as Piranha Plant, stick to multiplayer. That's all I'm going to say. Even I forget about this because I went to go play Smash this weekend and I'm like, hey, you know what? I don't think I've given Piranha Plant enough attention. Everyone seems to be talking about him, and I'm really juiced on this Piranha Plant kick that's going on right now. And I literally picked up Piranha Plant and started a classic mode campaign. And I was like, wait, what the heck am I doing? Am I risking a corruption on my save file? And then I thought back to all of the work I had put into World of Light, and I'm like, oh, hell no. I am not risking corrupting the save file because I'm no way going to play through a World of Light all over again to get all of those spirits. Nope. So I did not. So be safe. I'll continue to fill you guys in on how the story evolves. I hope it doesn't continue to become a saga because come on, guys, like this is so silly. We should have just been past this point. Like everyone should be enjoying Piranha Plant. We shouldn't be concerned or worried for our game just because we're playing it. And the last story on the report has to do with WarGroove, a game that many of you guys are playing, and I know that for sure because of how well the game is doing financially across the board. WarGroove is, if you don't know though, a tactical top-down strategy game that's heavily inspired by the Advance Wars franchise, and it has done incredibly well so far in its first week of sales. It has topped not only the US, but also the UK eShop charts, beating out Nintendo's own Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. In response, developer Chucklefish released a blog post further detailing the game's sales, as well as what are the next steps for WarGroove. When it comes to financial success, Chucklefish had this to say, quote, "First of all, I want to say how humbled and thankful we all are here at Chucklefish for the incredible launch weekend. It's truly been amazing. We've already covered the cost of development and are throwing ourselves into improving the game further," end quote. Next, they actually went on to continue this blog post and talked about future updates. They said that they currently have a post-launch patch submitted to be available very soon with mostly bug fixes, and a follow-up update that will include various quality of life improvements, such as the ability to skip battle scenes more quickly. That's something that I noticed immediately when I started playing the game, is that you hold B or whatever the button is to skip the scene, and it kind of does this countdown from 3, 2, 1, and it made me immediately question, like, okay, wait, why do I have to wait for this? There are a whole bunch of things in that game, like including fog of war calculation and others that are very minor inconveniences, but inconveniences nonetheless, and it looks like Chucklefish is listening and working on an update for that. They also noted that fans should expect both more content based on free updates as well as DLC arriving at some point in the future, and I'm assuming when they say DLC that they are implying paid DLC because they are kind of saying that in a different breath as the content free updates in the DLC. So there's going to be both free content for you to keep chewing on if this has been a game that you're interested in or that you're playing right now that's coming in the near and far future, as well as paid DLC. I would assume that would be more substantial content, maybe new characters to play as with their own groove mechanics, new maps, maybe a whole new campaign. Not sure what that's going to be yet, but overall, this story is all about how successful WarGroove has been and how much of a critical darling and financial darling the story of WarGroove is for Chucklefish, and props to them. Congratulations on making a great game. I love that we live in a world where, although it's true what they say, the industry is more competitive than it's ever been, and releasing smaller games like this that are, I guess you would consider this an indie game, even though Chucklefish, I mean, I don't know if I would consider them an indie studio because they're kind of a publisher as well. I mean, they're very small, so for the sake of this conversation, I will. We live in an industry where it is harder than ever to kind of showcase and stand out from the crowd if you make games, especially if you are an indie developer who doesn't have a lot of money to spend on marketing and pushing your game out there. So it always makes me feel really good when high quality gaming experiences get recognized. I think back to last year, and right off the bat in January with Celeste, and then throughout the year with games like Hollow Knight, Dead Cells, Grease. I even think Stardew Valley came to Switch last year, if I'm remembering correctly. I mean, there's so many titles, and I love that I can remember them. Like, I love that I love how the cream of the crop rises and entire communities kind of move towards games that maybe on other Nintendo platforms wouldn't have seen that much reference, wouldn't have seen that much community building. And WarGroove seems to be taking the world by storm. I mean, being the top of both the US and the UK eSharps, that means it's beating out some of Nintendo's best selling games right now. That just says that a lot of people who have Switches have their eyes on this game. It means that the Switch has a very healthy indie scene. It means that Nintendo should reconsider what they're doing with the Advance Wars franchise because there is a hunger for it. It means all types of good things. Although I will say this, I've seen a lot of people look at this news and say, hey, Nintendo, wake up, do Advance Wars. Be careful what you ask for. Be careful what you ask for, because sometimes it takes an indie developer like this, or a developer like Chucklefish, to look back with all the nostalgia of Advance Wars and try really desperately hard to kind of recreate that experience, to recapture it, to make a game like WarGroove. Whereas when Nintendo goes and looks back to kind of make a game like this, they might not recreate Advance Wars the way you remember it. I think WarGroove does a really great example of making a game that plays like Advance Wars the way you remember it, but in modern times. And I'm not sure if Nintendo would necessarily go that route. They might go too old school, or they might go too futuristic and try to do things that don't have the same charm as Advance Wars. I think the best example of that is I would not expect an Advance Wars title that comes out in a 2019 forward world, so 2019, 2020, well, like any year after this point in time would have pixel art, for example. That's not something that Nintendo seems very interested in doing. The Fire Emblem franchise ditched pixel art a while ago, so just keep that in mind. Like, let's celebrate WarGroove. Of course, I would never be against Nintendo making an Advance Wars title, but you know. And those are all of the stories I had in the daily Nintendo report, but it's time, before we sign off, to get to today's question of the day. What old Nintendo franchise deserves the WarGroove remake? So when I say the WarGroove remake, the WarGroove refresh, I mean what franchise should be taken out from Nintendo's vault? Because again, WarGroove is based on Advance Wars, a franchise that has not seen the light of day since the DS era, which is what, maybe a decade old now? I can't remember when Days of Ruin came out, but it has to be around a decade, if not more. So it has to be an old franchise that you want to see kind of tenderly taken out of the depths of Nintendo's old decrepit, hardware or hard, what's it called? Warehouse. That's what it is. Taken out of the decrepit warehouse, brought forward and kind of given a new lick of paint, a new life, art style that really harkens back to the original while also being very modern. What games do you think deserve that remake? If you're going to ask me, honestly, I mean, of course, the obvious answer is like a Mario game with a old school Pixar lick of paint would be fascinating to me. A Zelda game as well, but I'm gonna go kind of a weird pick here. I want to see Mario Golf brought forward, but I don't want. Mario. Okay, that's a cheap pick because Mario Golf really hasn't gone anywhere. We had Mario Golf on 3DS and it did relatively well, so I know that I'm kind of cheating this question a little bit, but I like the old school Mario Golf games, the old school Mario sports games. I'm going all the way to Advance Tour on the GBA, where there was more than just the golfing activity. It was like a story mode. There was kind of an RPG mechanic. You could go into stores and buy, I think, outfits and different clubs and stuff to use in the golf field. I was enamored with that game. That game was so fun. And since then, I think the sports games, both the tennis and the golf series, Mario Tennis and Mario Golf, have kind of lost that charm. And if I was going to choose a series that I want a company like Chucklefish to go back to the depths, grab that older game, give it a fresh pixel art lick of paint, and then also rethink how they can evolve it, rethink how they can modernize it, I would say Mario Golf. The Advance Wars specifically, the Advance Tour specifically version of that game, because I love that so much and I miss seeing that. The latest versions of Mario Golf have kept a good foundation for gameplay mechanics, but they're just kind of like super clean, super inoffensive. They're all like cartoony and in the typical Mario way, and I miss the pixel art. And they also have mostly ditched this single player campaign thing that I really got into back in the day. So I would see that. Although if I'm going to be more accurate, because Mario Golf isn't really a dead franchise, a franchise that's been as gone as Advance Wars by any means, I would say maybe Super Mario RPG. That's the game I want to see brought back in a way just like this. Again, like being handed off to a different developer and remodernized in the same way that WarGroove does for Advance Wars. So you let me know what you think for the question of the day. Again, it is what old Nintendo franchise deserves the WarGroove remake. And that's it. That's everything that I had to talk about today. If you want to reach out to me and let me know what your answer to the question of the day was, or you have any sorts of comments or opinions on any of the stories that were discussed today, you can reach me by emailing heartcontainerspodcast@gmail.com, or go to Twitter, where there are now officially 2 Twitter handles. If you want to follow and talk to the show directly, where you can specifically answer the question of the day that we can actually talk about it in the next show, you follow at HC Nintendo. HC Nintendo is the official Heart Containers Podcast Twitter. But if you want to talk to me specifically, that's at Romefawaz, ROMEFAWAZ. Feel free to follow both, both or neither, or just go there to tell me how's it going and talk about Nintendo with me. I am more than open to doing that. And this has been Heart Containers episode 7 for Tuesday, February 5th. I thank you all so much for listening, and I'll see you real soon.